It isn't often that long-running shonen have their best arc as the finale of the series. Usually by that time, the author has exhausted all ideas for the story. Kinnikuman closes off with the tournament of all tournaments. Everything and everyone you loved about the original Kinnikuman run is here in spades. Ridiculous storytelling, all the over-the-top excitement of wrestling, combined with the ass-pulls of classic shonen. Rules and conditions are implemented, only to be completely overridden several chapters later. Alliances and betrayals, backroom deals, and prophetic revelations within the ring. Scramble for the Throne is everything that a great manga arc should be, while also being a lesson for what not to do with a successful battle shonen. I grew up on Ultimate Muscle, an endearing wrestling anime that aired on 4Kids TV during the early 2000s. It was a fun show that successfully blended wrestling theatrics with anime hysterics. But I never really liked the cast. Kid Muscle seemed way too silly. Kevin Mask and Terry the Kid were fun, but they came off as bland imitations of better characters. It wasn't until the parents of the cast appeared, Suguru Kinniku, Robin Mask, and Terry Man, did it all start to math up. Ultimate Muscle was a sequel to a much older series, one that seemed a lot more intriguing than what I had been exposed to. I never got into Kinnikuman as a kid, and it wasn't until high school that I actually read up on the old series. I gotta give props to One Manga for giving us the opportunity to read this series. Heiko, Zabi, I hope y'all are well. Kinnikuman, created by Yude Tamago, a duo of childhood friends, is about a superhero who needs to claim his right to the throne of planet Kinniku. When the manga started off, it was gag-oriented with a villain of the week premise. Shonen manga of the late 70s/early 80s wasn't the highest brow of media, but the creative duo, Yude, found their footing when they switched the premise to be wrestling-oriented. It was at this time that Kinnikuman started to reach the mainstream, popular amongst young boys and developing an aging audience that was dedicated. Kinniku found himself allied with Meet Alexandria, his sidekick, who would later go on to train his son in Ultimate Muscle. Robin Mask, Terry Man, Buffalo Man, Ramen Man, and an assortment of others partner up with him throughout the course of the series. Bad guys get defeated and become friends. Tag teams are built up for drama and suspenseful purposes. It was a high-octane battle shonen that would get more brutal towards its final arc, while improving the art and scale of the stakes inside and out of the ring. By the time Scramble for the Throne, the final arc of Kinnikuman, began publication, the series had done everything that it could. What more did Suguru need to prove after achieving success in previous Chojin Olympics and tag tournaments? Well, his bloodline, of course. A peculiar retcon happens where Suguru's parents, royalty of planet Kinniku, are unable to determine if he is actually their son. 5 evil gods want to cause mischief and seek out 5 men across the galaxy who were born on the same day as Kinniku, empower them with incredible Chojin ability, and they challenge Suguru's right to the throne. What follows is a head-scratching plot that even die-hard fans have trouble making sense of, but plot isn't important when it comes to wrestling. Oh no, action is the name of the game, and Scramble for the Throne has some of the most breathtaking clashes of the 80s. Of the Fated Princes, multiple teams are put together, and each of the fighters are quite distinctive from one another. For over 100 chapters, you get basically every single style of combat and combination that you could expect from this manga. Super Phoenix versus Big Body, Robin Mask versus Mariposa, Kinnikuman versus Mixer Taite. This was my personal favorite. Ramen Man versus Motor Man. Tag teams, 3-on-3, battles inside of blenders, within a TV, in hell, everything you can expect. The action is exciting, but there's one major problem for this arc. It's way too long. Over 100 chapters of what? Senseless battles between opponents who were introduced only a few months earlier, getting multiple chapters to talk behind a mask? They all have the same goals as one another, which is to defeat Kinniku, and their origins are the same, so you basically get Kinniku and crew fighting against the Putty Patrol for several years. And you can tell that editorial was basically writing this series alongside the mangaka. Everything you heard about 80s cartoons being vehicles to sell toys is true, and you can use Scramble as a Japanese example of that. Characters get costume changes for the sole purpose of creating merch. Upgrades and power boosts don't really mean much, nor are they explained well. I really like the reveal of Kinniku's face under his mask. When he takes off his mask, he can do magical things like resurrect the dead, clean rivers, and do whatever the plot calls for at that time. However, I hated that it became an ass pull towards the end of Scramble. Throughout this arc, you get a sense that these battles are being plotted out by committee. The art stands out, yes it does. Each Chojin is so vascular, so hefty. The physique isn't as chiseled as what you'd come across with Fist of the North Star, which ran at the same time as Kinnikuman, nor as angular as JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, which started shortly before the end of Scramble for the Throne. Was this done by design? I believe so. Toei Animation would adapt Kinnikuman's Scramble arc in the early 90s, and by that time, Shonen had moved on considerably. Dragon Ball and Stardust Crusaders were better battle shonen, with stronger character design, a better paced story, with sharper humor than anything we had seen out of the 80s. Kinnikuman became antiquated before it even had a chance to solidify its legacy. For me, I really enjoyed reading Kinnikuman even though it had periods where it got way too repetitive. However, Scramble for the Throne tripled down on that. I liked seeing these battles, but as I mentioned, how important is it to see a battle between two opponents who you know they ultimately won't end up fighting Kinniku at the end? The finale is kind of spelt out for us pretty early into the arc anyway, so it seems like a lot of the battles were mainly done so you can create merch. Also during this time, the creative duo took a break so they could tend to injury. The manga takes a break for a while, and when it returns, it breaks the fourth wall about the sabbatical, but then it goes right back to the shit pacing. I really wish there could have been a change of pace or tonality towards the end of Scramble, and it really could have afforded to be 20 or 30 chapters less, at least. Kinnikuman would have a number of spin-offs and continuations over the years, and while the fanbase has always been strong, it never went beyond a cult following. If there's any manga that deserves a remake, it's this one. Scramble for the Throne is the culmination of two childhood friends' life work. The duo started working for Shueisha when they were still teenagers. The editor-in-chief of the magazine at the time saw great potential in their early submissions to manga contests and traveled to shithole Osaka to convince their parents to let them come and work for the company. While the series itself hasn't aged well, it's amazing to see what they were capable of doing by the end of the first Kinniku run. These creators put together an enduring series with charm that is still beloved today. Warts and all, Scramble for the Throne is an iconic and influential arc. It introduced many young aspiring mangaka to unique humor and tropes that would often be revisited in countless serializations to come over the decades. For better or for worse. Scramble for the Throne is a weekly Shonen Jump greatest hit.